Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're doing something a little different here. We're looking at trains, and one of the things I hear when I'm in the aisles is just the price of the trains and how expensive they are. Which I'm not going to say that they're not expensive, but unfortunately, let's look at this in a wider kind of expanse here. So, mainly because this is Christmas time, and you know to look back in days of old, um, you would have train setups in stores and store windows. It was very common many years ago for there to be a Christmas or a Christmas train around the tree, um, and a lot of other fun things like that. So this is another thing that really had helped get me back into the whole Lego universe years ago myself. We had a cheap train that I had picked up at Walmart for, I don't know, probably like $30 or whatever. The problem I had was only one of the wheels for the train itself was the one picking up the actual current. So it kept getting stuck going around the tree. So I was, hey, Legos have trains. They're a little heavier. I'm doing this on carpeting, so I figured why not do a Lego train? So that started my whole little town and everything else, and going from there. Now, looking at things today, looking at the prices we have, and I understand people having reservations for, geez, this stuff isn't so cheap and everything else. Yeah, you're right. In some regards, they're not cheap. Um, but let's look at this in a broader sense. So that's what we're doing here today. Now I have Menards to bring up, so we're going to go through some of the trains that we have listed here on the screen today in Lego online shopping. So we do have a Holiday Express train, which is what, one train, three cars, a couple figures, and a little bit of track. So you have a little bit, so you can make a nice little oval and run it around. A nice Christmas theme here. Actually, that kind of looks like something I should pick up. But anyways, it is what it is. $130. Now, for train, it's not really that expensive, and I'll show you my answers why I'm saying that. And then we have a nice Oriental Express, which gives us two club cars here. One of the things we don't get to see a lot of in the Lego train setting, really, we get maybe two cars, which is what we're getting here. Really, it'd be kind of nice if we had, say, four of those, but that's about $300. And yes, it is a little pricier. It is a nice looking train, just looking at it as an overview. And then for the kids, a little bit more of the play features here. We have the Explorers Arctic Polar Express train, which has some extra play features to it for $210. Really, it's the train and one car, and some other play set of accessories. Again, it's a little on the expensive side when we kind of look at it as just a train. Overall, I hate to say it, it's probably not that expensive, and we'll see. Um, Again, we have another express passenger train, two cars plus the train itself. $190. It's up there a little bit. Let's see. We have the Hogwarts Express, another nice smaller train for 130. We've seen the downtown streetcar station. I put that together not that long ago, and that was all of $90. Now we have a high speed train. Now this does not look like it comes with any track of any sort. So I'm going to click on this. It does have what looks like regular train wheels. Um, this is out of the creator. It shows it like it should be able to go on there. I just don't see any actual rail system. So that might have to be something to pick up and actually take a look and see if it works. But it also looks like it's a smaller scale. So I'm not 100% certain here. Like I said, it looks like something maybe to pick up. If it does work, that could possibly, maybe we could convert the front into another car, and that would be two cars for possibly $20. Now, We just did the Doc Ox subway train. This will fit on a standard uh, train track here. The only issue is this has more of a setting, very much like our downtown streetcar. It'll hook up that way, so you might want to keep them off on a rail on their own. Just kind of leaving it there. We have a nice central train station. Um, then we have some Duplo stuff here. Let's see, police train heist for what, $200. And this is just looking up for trains here. And I'm not going to go much farther than this. Yes, we're looking at about $200, $130 to $200 for most of the train stuff here. Now, let's transition over to Menards. Now, I like Menards because we were shopping over at Menards. I had to get some pellets for my pellet stove, and I see all the wonderful trains. Now, this is all O scale. They have HO scale. For those that are looking at train stuff that's not Lego, it is a great idea. I would even say this is a great idea to look at and even do some free build stuff if you could manage to pull that off, which kind of has me thinking about maybe doing some of that. But in the meantime, we have a O scale Union Station for $70. Now that's a very simple build, and you're going to have to lay your track down through there, but that's $70. We have Main Street USA, so we have what, three stores here. Again, that's $100. We have Cripple Creek Rail Maintenance Office. So this looks almost like a container, like a train container, um, just converted into an office with a old rustic, say like a Ford or Chevy truck there. Has that nice, 50s vibe to it and all that, and that's $50 on its own. We have a O scale Texaco beam pump for trying to get the oil out, and that's another $40. These are smaller sets here. We have a Metropolis Theater for $100. Let's see, we have the old Sinclair gas station for $50. And the other thing to say is when we're looking at a lot of this, these are hollow buildings on the inside. There's nothing in there. Um, Quite often when we're looking at our Legos, we have a interior built up there, and the back is hollowed out so that way we can get figures in there and it's got a little playability, which is where I kind of started off doing some of my stuff. I'm going to be honest, and we just kind of go from there. It's nothing to be upset about. It's just the way things are. Um, so the prices here really are not all that bad. Let's move on over. We have a Cole Sudis Cole Triple or whatever. It's meant to have a train track going underneath here. We have a car there to kind of fit the theme. Looks pretty good. But when we get over to our Tulsa tank train, now let's open this up. It says there's one in Oshkosh, Wisconsin here. Um, Trying to see what we all have in the box here. Okay, so we have two trains. I'm going to guess one of these is just non-power. Yep, it says one O gauge locomotive, one non-powered, which we would see very often with Lego. We have three tank cars, wireless remote control, enough track here to make an oval, and go from there. And that's all we have. Nothing wrong with that, just saying that that's all we have. Um, Kind of standard for what we see with a lot of Lego. But look at the price. We're looking at $400. Um, so when we look at Lego, we're not much different here. In some regards, you could almost argue we're a little cheaper. Um, we have two O gauge Burlington locomotives. Let's see, one powered, one non-powered dummy. Um, Powered unit has two powerful motors, great for pulling. Let's see, easy to use remote control. Everything's having a lot more remote controls today than before. You used to have it on a board. Um, so we're adding extra features in there today, but $250 just for a regular car. There's no building to this. There's no nothing. It's just what it is. So when we look at this, how expensive are we really looking at with Lego? Lego really seems to be fitting in, and in some regards, you can almost argue it might be cheaper on some regards to the actual price of a lot of trains. And I really, hate to think of how expensive trains are getting because you can go to garage sales and rummage sales and all that, and quite often you find people that you know we're getting rid of grandpa's old train sets. Nobody wants them. Nobody does trains really anymore. It's kind of a niche little community, and for those of us that are in that community, now I'm seeing with just the Lego stuff, there's a lot of interesting things out there. The things that they're getting to, the size that they're getting to, they have very small train sets. But staying with this similar size, because this works kind of with Lego. I mean, this is O scale is almost the same, on par with a Lego size minifigure. That's why I chose the O scale to show you the prices. But we'll keep scrolling down here. I'm thinking what we need to do is just start looking at some of these and just say, hey, let's try and recreate some of these with brick built sets here. Now we have an old, oh wow, look at that. 1954 GMC Spam tractor and trailer set on railways. That's an interesting set. We have the old Martian War of the Worlds kind of set here. Looks like an old Willys Jeep being sucked into the um, UFO, and we have a tank sitting there. Happy Halloween car with lights and that. When you're looking at the prices, if you're not able to look, I mean, the Happy Halloween that lights up is $35 just for the one car. Um, the War of the Worlds one is $120 for the little board set here. $35 for two flatbed cars with a tractor trailer on there. The train, this is HO scale, dual track train bridge, $50 here. O gauge Pennsylvania diesel locomotive, $169, 68.53. I usually round it up. Here's another Rock Island diesel locomotive, double A set, in O gauge for 250. You know, it's sad to sit here and say, and what really caught my eye was some of the bigger buildings. Here's Country Inn Suites, $110. Um, I'm thinking I need to build some of these, kind of a little modular, so I can maybe put it on my shelf until I need it for the train. But something that I can do. We have an O scale parking garage. That's 120. Here's a rocket diner with they essentially hollowed out. Looks like they hollowed out a locomotive and then made it into a diner. $112. Uh, we get into the next page. They have some very beautiful looking buildings here. I will say that Tampa Towers that they're building, something like that you could add into your scenery. But that's $130. I mean, that's an easier build to do out of bricks. We have the police plaza with the helicopter and the blades turn. But again, when you look at this is $80, and it's just a shell with the helicopter on top with a motor on there, so it slowly moves the rotor blades. Um, Things that we could build and have fun with it. Now they do have a Menards store. Give them credit because Walmart does the same thing for their little porcelain villages for going around a Christmas tree, for doing some of that stuff. That's $140. We have a Spectre Brewery for making root beer for $100. These are great sets. I'm not gonna, I can't knock them. The Schneider Freight Building, and this is a little motorized. The forklift goes back and forth. That we could possibly do as a set or something like that. I, looking at this because it's that time of year. I think I really need to build a couple buildings like this and get something going here. We could get a soap factory for Tide, $50. So again, really just want to stressing when we look at Lego, and we'll switch back over here, the prices aren't that far off. Let's go to Lego City buildings, right? Just because it's a lot of fun. We have campers. Let's see what we get here for buildings. Ninjago workshops. Um, the central train station looks pretty nice. Um, I think I need to find something else here because I'm seeing a lot of the cars, which makes a lot of sense for the kids. Here we go. Heart Lake City apartments and stores. You know, I saw one person at Bricks and Minifigs, and he said that Lego Friends isn't very popular. One of the things I will say against that is yes, this is meant more for the girls, but they have a lot of nice city pieces. So when we're looking at this, you could take the figures out of there and just throw in regular Lego figures. But we have a lot of nice city buildings here. I think they do a lot more with the Lego Friends for city buildings, adding to a lot of that. Um, let's see. Here we have a little garage section in there from the looks of it. We have clicking on something else here. This is a smaller one, but still something. A music store and an apartment, $50. Kind of on par with what we've seen with a lot of the sets we were seeing at say Menards. Picking on them. We have a Heart Lake City Community Center. If you can still find it, it's out of stock online, but $140. You know, maybe $20 more than what 20, maybe $40 more than what we were seeing for some of the Legos. But this has play features on the inside, things that we don't get with the O scale. Those are hollow buildings. Because they do have them displayed up there and you can see them, and like I said, they're all hollow inside. Here we have stuff that's got play features. So just throwing that out there as something to say, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Everyone's got to make up their own mind on that and determine what they want to say with that in mind. But I'm going to say it probably isn't all that bad when we really look at it in those regards. Um, and if you go to a Bricks and Minifigs, you can find zombies. So then you can turn all this into from a Christmas to a Halloween kind of setup. You can make your minifigures zombies and walking through and stuff like that, and you can have fun with it. Um, I'm sure that we can find zombie figures on Amazon or somewhere else and just go from there. Again, like I said, these are things I'm just kind of throwing out here. When we look at the prices, is it really that much more expensive? Yes and no. I think it's all, for the most part, on par. We have play features with the Legos that we don't get with these model sets. This is really meant to just kind of sit there in a very static sense, and then we just kind of go around. Which my city here is very static in a lot of regards, but looking at the back of one of the friends' houses that my daughters had built, and yeah, there's play features there. I'm thinking of trying to figure out how to redo my city so I can get a little bit more in there than what I currently have, and kind of refresh the city in that, um, and going from there. So you know a different video for the day, something that kind of throw out there when we're looking at it as parents getting this stuff for our kids, because yes, quite often I see parents and grandparents in the store aisles, and a lot of them do mention that very same thing. It is kind of expensive, but when we look at just pre-built kits like this that we can put around a train, maybe underneath a tree or something like that, or what have you, or heavens forbid you go to a actual hobby shop and you look at the price of models. Models are not getting any cheaper either, and a lot of them are. When we look at buildings, there are a lot of shells. Um, there's no play features inside that you can have fun with. So once you get it built and you have it painted, you're set, and that's all you're going to have. That's all there is. So um, just figured I'd throw that out there because I know that there's going to be people in the aisles looking at some of this stuff for their kids, for their grandkids, and kind of complaining. And I can understand the griping. The dollar doesn't seem like it goes as far today as it did many years ago. So I'm partial to that. But when we look at the prices of O scale or HO scale or what have you, it's not getting any cheaper. So in some regards, when we look at the train sets to go around a tree for our kids or even for ourselves, and we look at what it is for actual regular standard scale locomotives, we're not really spending much more, if in some cases any more. I think with the trains, we're spending a little less, but then with some of the extra buildings, we might be spending just a little bit more. And I understand the complaints there, but we all have to figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to go about doing these things. Uh, it's still a lot of fun putting this stuff together. It's a lot of time consumption, um, especially if we're doing free buildings and that no plans, no nothing. You have to kind of go in with a sense of, okay, I have an idea and I've done this plenty of times, and then all of a sudden I find out my ideas don't work, and that can be frustrating from time to time. But it's all in the love of building and being creative. That was the one thing I remember. My parents didn't want to get sets that were preset because they wanted us to use our imaginations and be creative. Um, and with a lot of the Lego sets today, we get them to be the models that they really get to be, and we go from there. But with that being said, thank you so very much for joining me today. It's always wonderful having you here. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.